My parents skipped my graduation to throw a party for my sister, who failed to graduate. Now they're calling me unreasonable because our grandparents found out and decided to cut them off financially and give the money to me instead. And I'm gladly accepting it. It was the kind of betrayal that cuts deep. A moment that made me question everything I thought I knew about my family. My own parents, the ones who were supposed to be my biggest cheerleaders, refused to attend my college graduation. Why? Because they were throwing a pity party for my older sister, Jackie, who's always been their little princess. And if that wasn't shocking enough, what happened next blew my mind and changed my life forever. So let me tell you about Jackie. She's 24, 2 years older than me, and since childhood she's been the golden child, the family's darling. She was supposed to graduate college last year, but she dropped out. Not because she got kicked out, though honestly with her grades and attendance she probably should have been, but because she decided to quit in her final year to pursue her true love: music. She joined a band in her second year, and apparently that was her destiny. Everyone else saw it as a phase, a terrible idea to ditch a degree for rock stardom, but I kept my mouth shut. It wasn't my place, and frankly Jackie wouldn't have cared for my opinion anyway. What really got me was that my parents, the very people who should have warned her, actually encouraged her. It was baffling. Jackie, bless her heart, was an amateur bathroom singer at best. The rest of the band? They were genuinely good. I still don't know why they even had her. Within 6 months of them all dropping out to seriously pursue music, Jackie was unceremoniously dumped. They found a better vocalist, someone who even wrote her own lyrics. She moved back home, no degree, no prospects, just a broken dream. She tried starting her own band, but nobody was interested. People aren't stupid enough to uproot their lives for Jackie's latest whim. Ever since then she's been unemployed, living off my parents. And here's where it gets really unfair. My parents are totally okay with it. They act like she's suffered some terrible tragedy and deserves a break. Me? I see it as the consequences of her own actions. Zero sympathy from my end. She should have been more realistic about her singing abilities. I also knew those bandmates had been friends since high school, so of course they were closer to each other than to Jackie. The hypocrisy really grinds my gears. When I graduated high school they told me, "You're on your own now. Figure out college yourself." And I did. I was prepared for it honestly because I'd always known Jackie was the favorite. I was ready to take out student loans or work my way through. But then I saw them letting Jackie live rent-free, constantly making excuses for her unemployment, and it hit me. They were ready to support her endlessly, even as an adult. That's when the unfairness truly sank in. I confronted them and we had so many fights, but they'd always pull their emotional manipulation tactics, and I'd eventually back down. It was hard to cut them off, but then about a week ago they finally gave me the perfect reason. I asked them to come to my college graduation, which is just a couple of hours away, super convenient. They started making excuses. "Oh, we have work." Seriously? You can't take one day off for your son's graduation? I argued, and finally they spilled the real reason. They were throwing a party for Jackie on the exact same day. Turns out, my graduation date was the day Jackie was supposed to graduate last year. She'd been down in the dumps, so they decided to throw her a surprise party to make her feel better. I was in disbelief. They were actually considering skipping my graduation for some stupid pity party for a grown woman who made a bad decision and now had to live with it? I absolutely lost it. I'd been dealing with their unfairness for so long, and this was the last straw. I had a huge outburst, accusing them of never caring about me, always prioritizing Jackie. I told them they were coddling her, ensuring she'd never make anything of herself, and pushing me away so I'd never trust them again. I called them terrible parents, and even then no apology. They just told me I was overreacting, that it was just a graduation, and Jackie needed them more. There was no point talking to them anymore. I hung up and immediately called my grandparents, my dad's parents. We're not super close with my mom's side since they live out of state, but I've always had a good relationship with my dad's parents. They were the ones who co-signed my student loan, because I didn't even want to ask my parents. They've always known about the favoritism, always been sympathetic to me, and had even tried, countless times, to tell my dad how unhealthy and unfair their treatment of me and Jackie was. It never made a difference to my parents, but it always meant the world to me that my grandparents at least tried to stand up for me. So I called them, explained everything, and I just broke down. I was crying, completely torn up, and they kept apologizing, even though it wasn't their fault. They felt terrible. Then they reassured me. They'd be there for my graduation, and they'd make sure my parents paid the price for making me cry, not just now, but for all the countless times over the years. They sounded furious. I tried to get them to tell me what they were planning, but they just said I'd find out eventually. And find out I did. Around 1 a.m. that night, my dad called, immediately yelling, calling me selfish and unreasonable, a drama queen. I had no idea what he was talking about. I told him to slow down. He finally explained. A couple of hours earlier, right after I called my grandparents, they'd shown up at my parents' house. It was a full-blown showdown. Apparently, my grandparents had called my parents leeches of the highest order, and Jackie a brainless and lazy cow. Harsh maybe, but honestly pretty valid. See, ever since Jackie dropped out, my grandparents had been sending my parents money every month to support her. My grandpa has his own business, he's way better off than my dad, and my dad had always taken advantage of that. Until now. Grandpa had finally put his foot down. My dad had been lying to my grandparents, telling them Jackie was actively looking for a job, but just couldn't find anything she wanted. Total BS. I knew for a fact she was just lounging around at home or going out drinking. She had zero interest in working, and my parents knew it. They were fine with it, but they knew my grandparents wouldn't be, so they lied. After my call, my grandparents decided they'd had enough. They'd probably already figured out Jackie had no intention of working because she was so comfortable living off their money. They told my dad they were putting an end to this nonsense. No more funds for my parents. And then my dad made his biggest mistake. He mentioned that instead of sending money to them, my grandparents planned on sending it to me from now on. I hung up on him immediately and called my grandparents. They picked up instantly. When I asked if it was true, if they were really sending me money every month, they said yes. It was their way of making up for everything. They said I'd been through enough, and after graduation I deserved an easy life. Whatever I did with the money was my decision. They just wanted to support the right person. First it felt weird. I planned on getting a job, working like a normal person. But then I thought, why not? I don't have to struggle to be happy, and they were offering. I happily agreed. My parents kept calling, even Jackie tried to get in touch. But the next morning I saw a flood of missed calls and messages, and I just blocked them all. They all had the same message. I needed to fix things, I was unreasonable. They needed the funds more. Jackie even claimed she wasn't emotionally strong enough to work, that she was healing, and I needed to be understanding, not selfish and materialistic. Unbelievable. Thank you to everyone who commented and offered advice. It really reinforced my decision. I'm the kind of person who finds it hard to stay mad, but I've realized there's a difference between holding grudges and standing up for myself. Cutting them out. That's standing up for myself, and it's the right thing to do. In the past, they always manipulated me, taking advantage of the fact that no matter how many fights we had, I'd always come back. I believed they had my back. Most kids are taught that, right? But I was wrong. Their love is conditional, and I get that now. I'm not playing by their rules anymore. They can call me whatever names they want, they can be as mad as they want. It won't make a difference. My grandparents were at my graduation, and even though my parents didn't show up, I was happy to have the people who truly loved me there. I've also finally started opening up to my friends about my family, something I've always held back on. It felt too personal, but I needed to get it off my chest. They were completely non-judgmental, gave me great advice, and reassured me I was doing the right thing. No reason to feel guilty, no need to let them treat me like a doormat. Now that I've found the courage to talk about how messed up my family is, I'm not backing down. I refuse to let people walk all over me anymore. You won't believe this, but my parents did show up at my graduation. It's insane. When I wanted them there, they couldn't care less. But once money was involved, suddenly they were family again and eager to be there. They didn't have passes, so they couldn't get in, and I made it clear I wouldn't speak to them until after the ceremony. A couple of hours later, my grandparents and I agreed to meet them for lunch at a nearby hotel. I told them right away. No drama, no confrontation. I was in a good mood and I wasn't letting them ruin it. Of course, as soon as we sat down, they brought it up. They started apologizing profusely, saying they were so sorry for how they treated me. Jackie was very apologetic too, though she couldn't come because she supposedly had an interview. Apparently, the confrontation with my grandparents had made her realize how lazy she'd been and how much she'd taken for granted. My parents even admitted they'd messed up really badly, and that I'd been right about everything. They said they'd been terrible parents to both of us and wanted a chance to fix things. Before my grandparents could say anything, I spoke up. I appreciated the apology, but I didn't buy it. It felt insincere, disingenuous. The fact that it took my grandparents cutting off funds for them to realize they were wrong? That wasn't something I was happy about. If they were truly sorry, I told them they'd wait for me to forgive them, because I wasn't ready to give them another chance right now. All I wanted was to get a job, work, and build my own life separate from them. They caused me too much stress and emotional pain. I just needed space. My grandparents agreed, but my parents? Not so much. They started whining about how they'd really changed their minds, and that as their child it was my duty to forgive them, just like they'd always forgiven me as a kid. I found that laughable. Comparing my childhood mistakes to their conscious adult choices as parents? Please. I told them the bottom line was they messed up, and I wasn't ready to forgive. If they were truly sorry, they'd give me my space. If not, I'd know they were only doing this for my grandparents' money. I was blunt, and they knew they couldn't manipulate their way out of it. So, my mom started with the waterworks. Years of dealing with her melodrama had made me immune. I told her to cut it out, that we were in public, and if she made me uncomfortable, I'd leave with my grandparents. She cried for a few more minutes, calling me heartless, insisting her tears were real. I didn't buy it. I started to get up, and that's when she finally stopped. Eventually, they realized it was a losing battle. The food arrived, we had a relatively quiet lunch, and they left after congratulating me, their voices devoid of any real happiness. But it's fine. I don't care. I have my grandparents by my side, and that's all that matters. I also felt incredibly relieved, like I finally got the closure I needed. I was so proud of myself for standing up to them and not letting myself be manipulated. Overall, it was a pretty good day. It's only been a few days since that graduation lunch, and guess what? Jackie has started posting against me on social media. It's so weird. She wasn't even there at lunch. Our relationship has always been minimal, we don't get along. So why she feels entitled to say whatever she wants about me on a public platform is beyond me. Yesterday, she posted about how I was an ungrateful brat, and how she was ashamed to be related to me. I'd only blocked their phone numbers, totally forgot about social media. She cursed me out for how I treated our parents, ending by saying anyone who knew her and dared to speak to me after this would be cut out of her life. Bizarre. My parents have done the bare minimum for me, but for her they've gone above and beyond, so I guess she sees them as infallible. But I can't. To me, they haven't even been good parents. I commented on her post, explaining my side, but she deleted it. So I had no choice but to make my own post. Now we're in a full-blown social media war. She's accusing me of being ungrateful, and I'm just telling the truth, my side of the story. She's twisted everything about the recent fight and my grandparents, making her and our parents look like victims. It's annoying and embarrassing, but we have so many mutual friends from high school, and rather than reply to everyone individually, it's better to just put it all out there. I have to deal with it, so I am. A lot of new information has come to light recently, and I can safely say I'll never forgive my parents. Not for a few months, but for the rest of my life. It's been 3 days since Jackie's initial post, and we've been fighting nonstop online. It's tiring, but I decided I wouldn't stop until she did, and I'm so glad I stuck with it. The fight reached a point where she posted a defense of our parents, claiming they'd done the exact same things for her as they had for me, that she wasn't more privileged, and I was playing the victim to gain sympathy from our grandparents. She even brought up her own student loan, claiming she would have made the most of it if her awful friends hadn't dumped her after using her for a couple of months and given her false hopes. She claimed she'd never gotten over that, which is why it was so hard for her to get back to normal life and give up on those dreams. But then one of her old bandmates called her out. He clarified that they'd always told Jackie she was just a substitute, because their original singer had moved to Australia. They never promised to stay with her forever. When they decided to drop out to pursue music full-time, they even tried to talk Jackie out of it because frankly she wasn't that good, and they wanted someone more serious. So when they found their current vocalist, dropping Jackie was an easy decision. They had no reason to feel guilty. They'd always been clear. Jackie had dropped out of college on her own. A bad decision, which is why she twisted the story, leaving out crucial facts to play the victim. And the biggest lie of all? Jackie and my parents always claimed she'd taken out a student loan for college. But that same bandmate also revealed that was a complete lie. Jackie had constantly bragged about how her parents were paying her way through college, while the rest of them had to work part-time and pray for good gigs to pay off their own debts. After her bandmate exposed all of this, Jackie obviously deleted all her posts and pretended like nothing happened. But I know the truth now. I'm never speaking to my family again. They've lied over and over and I'm done. My grandparents are doing the same, cutting my parents and Jackie out of their lives completely.